So we called the meeting to order at 6:34. Let's see, we'll, I guess, do the pledge. I don't have a flag anywhere around. That's kind of a moot point, I think, at this point. So we will bypass. So on the agenda review, anybody have any items for the agenda review? We tried to make this a brass tacks meeting, the very, very basics of what we need to do. Ultimately, we're going to see it's the COVID-19 update, financial review with all its own questions, and there's a couple of action items with regards to a couple of other pieces of business that we need to take. So I would ask then for public comments, but seeing no public, we'll move off into the consent agenda. I would accept a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay. I had just a couple of items on there that, Sean, I think we just need to have some minor updates to, and they're all very minor, but I just wanted to make sure that they were cleaned up. On page 3 in the consent, or in that first package that Krista sent out in the meeting minutes for March 11th.
Mm-hmm.
Alex is missing an N in school board members present. Again, not a big deal, but we want him to be all here.
We do?
Yes, we do.
So missing the N at the end of his name?
Yeah, that's it. And then in reorganization of the board under 2A, says oath of office given by Tori Cleland by Margaret Bass. So oath of office given to Tori Cleland by Margaret. Just, again, semantics there. And then the one that I really just wanted to make sure gets documented correctly is in item number 3. Just, and this is more semantics than anything. In the second sentence, this is Sean McManus, superintendent, updated board members on what safety measures the school is taking regarding the safety measures that are taking place regarding the coronavirus scare. I'd like to change scare to pandemic, please. Scare is interesting, but not pertinent in that context, I don't think.
Right, got it.
Okay. And then I think everything else in there, I didn't have any issues. Does anybody else have any other items in there?
There was one thing I noted in one of the policies. I think a date. It was a year. It said 2019. It should have said 2020. So I've already got that marked to polish that up.
Okay. All right. Good. So all those in favor of accepting the consent agenda with those 3 minor changes, aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. We got to do this through roll call. So Alex.
Aye.
Margaret.
Aye.
Tori.
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
All right. Aye on my end. So yeah, just a couple of things. I, from time to time, have a bandwidth issue where you can't hear me, so please let me know immediately. Just for sake of clarity and instant continuity, Alex, if you could just kind of continue down through the agenda. If I get knocked off or you can't hear me, I don't expect that to happen. I've had a good day with it, so we'll see what happens. All right, good. So that's a consent agenda. Then the next agenda then is the financial conditions. That is in the FMR. And so Alex and I had reviewed the detail in the cover letter in here. Basically the same detail that we've had in the past ends up with an outlook of a favorable balance of $642K or 3.5% of the budget. In that, it's about $1 million in expenditures over instructional programs, instructional support, administrative and other, that sum to just over $1 million. Part of the issues with the way the expenditures are taken care of, we get in the $1 million, 300,000 of that is special ed expected overage, not overage spending, but excess not spent. The revenues go down with that accordingly. So there's a reduction in the revenues that go along with the increase in budget to get us to a total balance of what'll be 642,000 to the positive. So again, down through the only other item of real interest, at least in here, is the bond anticipation note. That is the funds that we've been drawing to get the pre-construction work done. Is nearing, it's right around $2 million at this point. We did pass a bond vote in March. Those funds become available, I believe, July 1st. Sean, is that that's the way that works, right? And this bond anticipation note will let us survive until then?
Yeah, so the vote was in May of 2019, and then so this bond anticipation note will get us through until September. The summer borrowing will not become available until September sometime.
Okay. And that will be the first official bond that we take at that point.
Correct.
All right. And then as you go down through the other pages, 3, it's a summary byline item in here. Then, you know, all the way down the right-hand side are the deltas. You can see way down toward the bottom of the instructional program section. You get the special ed piece at 316,000 to the plus out of the 683 total in that whole category. Again, the revenue piece of it moves around some, especially in the special ed with the services actually provided in a reimbursement. Grants. There's a grants section, and then the reserve account at 320K, which has been holding right around that level. And fund balance of 779. Nearly 400K of that came in FY19. And then the last piece in there is the bond anticipation note draws on it, totaling the 1953K. Alex, anything to add to that piece?
No, I think it's a good job, but it's going to be trickier as we move forward, especially as we have to worry about all the stimulus bills, how that play into role in all this. So I appreciate the well-detailed that these reports are coming in, and wish you luck in the upcoming month or two as we try to figure this out. But I think relatively we are in really good shape.
Yep. There is a meeting tomorrow, Sean, somewhere around 10:30, if I remember right, with the state folks looking at education and this year's finances. I'm not sure exactly what, did you get any information, what's going on there, Sean, at all, or?
Yeah, so this is going to be with Mark Peralt, who is from the Joint Fiscal Office, and he and his team have published a paper on the financial implications or potential financial implications of the pandemic. And as you can imagine, there's some pretty scary stuff in there in terms of the massive decline of revenues and how that impacts the ed fund and other sources of supports across the state. So the Vermont Superintendents Association had asked him to come and speak specifically to superintendents and school board members and business managers, so they had an opportunity to ask questions about that report.
Okay.
Because this is not just actually this quarter might be the easiest part of it. It's going to be the FY21, the FY22 budgets, that are going to be the most challenging moving forward.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Did we indeed have to accept the FMR at this point? Yeah. So I would accept a motion to accept the financial management report for quarter 3.
So move.
That was Alex.
Yep.
Okay. So let's roll again backwards. By aye, Matt.
Aye.
Sorry. You're muted.
Aye.
There we go. Margaret?
Aye.
Aye.
Mike as well. Okay. All right. Good. But thank you for your courteousness in muting yourself. That's good. All right. So after that, then the COVID-19 report. Sean, I'll let you take that one.
So I wrote a narrative about this, which if I was really going to put it into words, it would be more of a novel, pardon the pun, but this has been an incredibly trying time on schools, on staff, on parents now being thrust into the position of being teachers, on students, and we've been really advocating upward to the state level, to all of our legislators, and even at the federal level, to pay special attention to our most vulnerable students and families throughout this process, because we know that a lot of those folks tend to take the hit much harder than others during these types of challenging times. I'm really, really proud of our staff, our families, our whole community coming together around this. There's been some just absolutely amazing and beautiful moments throughout it, and there's been some really tense and fragile moments as well. But as I said, in general, people have really come together, and it has tested, I think, from a board perspective, you should be understand that this has tested the limits of our organization, and we're doing really well. I think the work that you all have done in your leadership, that my team has done operationally, that the staff is doing on a daily basis, students are doing, it all has brought us closer together over the past 7-8 years as a community, and these are the moments where you really get tested, and we are flying through that test in a really, really positive way. Not without challenges, not without falling down here and there, but things are going really well. So the second part of the report was just to use the policy governance framework, and what I did was try to give some updates on the first 2 portions of that, and then what I would be interested in is if in sections 3 and 4, which are really more board direct board orientation outside of executive limitations and delegation to the superintendent, what is it in those areas that you would need moving forward in a situation like this?
I'll start off and just say first on the positive end is I really appreciate the constant communication that you've given and provided with Emily's updates on what you're providing to the students, and then making sure that it's posted on the Front Porch Forum so that like we are all on the same page and knowing what's going on. I think this is the time where I'm really, the value of the communications process is coming all the way through on this, and I'm glad that we made that investment. Ease up some of the tension, and that's really what I like when I was reading through this, was like just really appreciative of all that communication. And there's never not enough, right? And I think you're doing a great job at it. And I also appreciate the empathy also showing to make sure that we're reaching out to all the different populations with the translations. I think I went to the website and saw the translated videos, and also utilizing as much of the resources that you can from the state and not having to reinvent the wheel on everything. I think you all are doing a great job on that. And I think that makes it easier for us to constantly communicate with the ownership.
But yeah, I mean, another thing I'd add, pointing out communications, human resources coordinator has been unbelievably helpful throughout this process, because there are many, many personnel compensation benefit issues that come up along the way. And, between those two positions, I was sometimes sitting here in the evening thinking, I'm not sure how we would be doing this. We certainly would not be doing it as well without those roles. And, both Emily Hecker and Wendy Letourneau have been amazing.
And I think what I want to add to that is I would encourage us, like, whenever this moment passes, that we take the time to reflect and assess and talk about it and document it, so that when we have to justify their positions later on, we can talk about it from that perspective. Because sadly, as an engineer, I think there's no better time when you can actually put such a stressful organization to see our strengths and weaknesses, as you articulated well. But it's also meant that we need to make sure we as a board remember those stresses and figure out where our strengths were, and then where we could actually figure out where the additional investments need to be made.
Yeah, I think for me in this whole piece, at least so far, there's plenty of room for armchair quarterbacks. There's a lot of room for second guessing. There's a lot of room for somebody wanting to try to sound like they're being right after the fact. What we've done so far, Sean, what you've done through this system, though not necessarily perfect by your own admission, and it can't be because we don't know what the rules are as we move forward, but we've been at least given the communication we need to, be able to deal with a second guessing. But I haven't seen a whole lot of it, which tells me that I think we're getting a decent amount to the people that need it. So we thank you for your diligence and I don't know, your own second guessing and living through it. I'm sure there's been plenty of that, but we appreciate it for sure.
I'd like to comment on it from a parent perspective, the care and support that the school has provided. Like, even the other day, teachers.
I lost you, Tori.
Huh?
We lost you for a minute.
Oh no. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yep.
I don't know if you heard. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the teachers did a parade around?
I know.
Did y'all see that? And so there's just so many multiple layers, like watching the Zoom meetings happen, the schedules that have been given. I mean, I'm looking at it from a middle school perspective, being thoughtful about how much and refining, showing up at the material drop-offs, and how well organized and thoughtful and staffed it is. There are a lot of staff that are really out there making sure everybody's getting what they need. And it is heartwarming and it's inspiring to see the care that is coming out of our system.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. It's really been amazing.
Awesome. As we move forward, obviously, there's no known end point at this point. We just keep, kicking it as far as we need to kick it to reassess, and the governor will reassess for us. I think, to me, that has been probably the biggest piece of this, though they may not have shown necessarily at all times the advanced leadership that we thought we needed. I think we've at least been given a direction that's been common among school districts. We may have carried things out differently, but at least we got one point of direction. How we carry it out, I think everybody will do it a little bit differently. Do you see, Sean, as we move forward here, the staff being able to work with the continuation of learning after the session we just went through? I think we're just starting that right at this point, right?
Right. So we submitted our continuation of learning plan today to the agency. It was due, and we'll be operationalizing that on Monday. They're supposed to get, if they have feedback for us, back within 48 hours so we can make any adjustments. But we feel really good about what we've built. And, you know, the major difference is you're moving from kind of practicing skills and reviewing materials and kind of the maintenance, as it's called, into some new content, new skill building, new learning. So it will look a bit different starting next week. But I feel like, yes, we'll be able to make that adjustment. There's been it's been particularly intense, I would say, on the special education side, where you really have to evaluate each and every IEP and kind of figure out how you're going to adapt to meet the goals of those IEPs in this remote environment, which is challenging. And while there's been some flexibility at the federal level around that, you know, we obviously want to do the very best that we can to meet all those needs, to not only avoid some slippage in skills, but to keep students moving forward.
And as we move, Tori.
I have a question. The only, I think, true concern for me, I think for all of us, is making sure that everyone's got contact. Because I know from a special ed perspective myself, is just keeping them in the loop and having them respond back has been a chore and a main point of focus. And I don't know how it's going on, Winooski's end of being able to just track, because I know that this is super hard. It's hard for all of us, and it stinks sometimes being in school, but man, this really stinks being separate from it, but having to keep doing things that are, for some of us, that are really hard, even with the greatest support system. So just thinking about those of, you know, are we tracking who we're not being able to get in touch with?
Yeah, so we've the principals and teachers developed a daily contact checklist, which includes all of the other support folks too, including ELL, special educators, literacy and math coaches and interventionists, nurses, and so forth. And throughout the maintenance in the first couple of weeks, there was just an absolute commitment to making sure that every student had contact for at least one person each day to check in on them. And it was a social emotional check-in primarily. And then, you know, if you can and you find that the student's doing okay, then you start to push on the academic a little bit. But so we actually have really good tracking through Google Sheets and stuff, all of the students that we're communicating with each day. And in fact, I've had some parents contact me and say it's too much. We're, you know, too many people are calling, which I think is a good challenge to have. And you know, that'll kind of moderate itself over time, I think.
If that's the complaint that I hear out of all of this, is you communicated too much. We're gonna move. We're gonna survive.
Right.
The one other piece that I had, and it's also, you know, it's obviously 2 months away, and it probably going to partially come down from the state level as well, and that is graduation and how things all move forward. So that's going to be a real flexible piece as we move over the next probably a month as to where, you know, all that resides. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays itself out.
Right, so the Agency of Ed has set May 8th as the deadline that they will have out guidance on high school graduation. So I think they wanted some time to figure out what might change with the stay home, stay safe order, any change or addendums to the governor's directives before they acted on that. So we're kind of waiting on them to give us some direction.
Yep, that'll be just before our May meeting, so we'll at least have some current information on that front at that point. So,
right.
All right, good.
So is there anything in there that board members, I just want to ask the question kind of again, which really goes down to governance processes in Section 4. Is there anything that you feel like you need to maintain linkage with the ownership, to understand what's going on at the district level, to help you to communicate with the ownership?
From my end anyway, as long as, I mean, our methods are Front Porch Forum. I've got this month's coming up.
The newsletter.
Sorry, the newsletter. I have the newsletter. Front Porch Forum postings. We obviously don't have to do something every day, but just to have something coming out there from the school. I'm assuming your Facebook and Twitter and stuff are all updated as well. I think that will give us, in my mind anyway, what we need to be able to move this thing forward. We are in such uncertain times. Prescribing anything for you to give us as we move forward without knowing what we're moving forward into, I think is that I can't even fathom at this point. So.
Hey, Sean, I think you've given us plenty to retain ownership of this. And again, I would echo that I love the communication. The only thing I want to make sure that you have is like that you're doing okay, that your leadership team is doing okay during all this.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, I think we're doing really well. I think from my perspective, and I think I can speak for my team, that first week of March 16th was really challenging because the state information was changing day to day. We were not getting any kind of preliminary notification of really significant things that were being announced or just published online in a press release. And we were in a reactive mode, because a staff member would hear something or see something before we would, a parent would, and sometimes it would be interpreted very differently. And so we were spending a lot of time, and I think it was that weekend that I was able to kind of get away, get some rest, and restructure and expand the leadership team and really build teams. And that felt really good to go into that next week. But thank you for asking. It was a pretty hectic first week, and we all talked to each other about, taking time with our families and trying to maintain our wellness plans that we have, that all my team have in their goals for the year. So thank you.
That's wonderful to hear, man.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Anything else? We'll certainly have another discussion in May on the same topics. Depending on where the whole thing ends up, we'll have to figure out how we move forward. But our hats off to the staff, for everybody. Just incredible to have to work through something like this. I got to feel at work, and I'm responsible for me. I'm not responsible for, a bunch of other people who are very much dependent on me. So my hat's off for sure.
I keep thinking to the barbecue next fall, when hopefully we'll be able to have a big celebration and we won't have to socially distance, and we can hug and hang out and enjoy food and be back together as a community. I think I'm really craving that, and I'm sure a lot of people are too.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Anything else there then? So you had done, Sean, a pretty extensive update on policies that would have touched this particular piece. I just wanted to touch base with my peers here on thoughts on, first, how pertinent actually is that? So I think, Sean, what you tried to do is go down through all of our policies that have something to do with either communication, treatment of students, treatment of parents, notification to the board, just about everything. And you updated it for this, particular situation. I guess I wanted just a very brief discussion on how important do we believe that is to have that done. Because we took 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it took you of your time to do this, to keep us informed. And I as I read down through it, I questioned how much did we really need to have you do that. And so I'd like to open up the floor to other thoughts.
Well, one thing too, just to preface, is you didn't ask me to do it. I just did it.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, it was a helpful frame too, to be able to use that. And also there's a lot of doing and stuff going on, and to sit down and actually take some time and write things out within a framework was helpful to me. And I thought it also might give you guys a way to kind of look at your work in an uncertain time too, and to give me some feedback on how our framework might help you.
Thoughts?
If it helps Sean, it helps me. I mean, I think that's the most convincing argument, that it helps him organize and think about things. And as long as Sean thinks it's useful, it seems reasonable to me that he will continue. I'm not sure that we need to urge him to do that, but it seems it's a benefit to all of us. You know, if it were of no benefit to him, then I'd sort of step back. But I think, given what Sean just said, it makes sense to, if he wants to continue, if it's helpful to him, then.
I think it's super helpful, and again, I like what Margaret's taken that path of, if it continues to work for you, because now the structure's set up, just to update it with, the structure's there, and to update it. But it's so clear. It is a huge benefit, and I'm glad that you found benefit into it as well. But I appreciate Margaret's perspective of, we don't need to push it. If it's working, great. If you've already created the structure, now you can just update the structure as we go along, if it makes sense.
I'm going to echo everybody's thoughts here, but the added piece that I think is helpful, because I always think a period of self-reflection is helpful and healthy, and I'm glad that this provided the structure. But even watching how you answer these questions provides us, once again, I think it's going to be powerful for us to reflect once we get through this, and reflect, and then we can use this as data points to figure out what were the policies that kind of work or might have hindered. Yeah. And just if you find it helpful on this, we will find it partly useful later on in the long term.
That's actually a good point, Alex. It's the reflection later that's probably going to be the most useful.
Yeah, I mean, I would give one example. I want to do that for sure, Alex, because I think kind of an overall reflection on the policies will be good to do at some point. I have been working regionally with my colleagues a lot recently, and really proud of that group and the state level group, how they've come together to really bring some congruency to the way that we're leading across school districts. And I also have been dismayed to hear from some of them about how some of their boards and board members have behaved throughout this, and the level of micromanagement and discord that has happened in some communities. And so I was really grateful for the framework. I'm grateful for all of you as a board and the way that you choose to lead, because I always felt like I had your support, and I could come, start with Mike or whoever and ask some questions if I had them. And at the same time, I had the autonomy as directed by policy to do what I needed to do, and I didn't need to run to somebody to make decisions that had to be made pretty quickly sometimes.
In some of these cases, you ask me a question, you're going to get palms up, because you're the expert in a lot of these areas, right? So.
No, and I just wanted to add, I appreciate that, because I've already forgotten half the things that you've already done. Like when this first came out and you were wondering whether you should close the schools, but you were wondering about the governor, you took the time to talk and ask for each of our opinions. That's missing. It may be in there, or I just reread and haven't forgotten it and stuff. But those are the small things that I truly appreciate, that you were able to kind of listen to us and still get the guidance on that ownership. Sure, I mean, you always took the temperature of us before you went on and made that. So I wanted to say thank you for that.
All right. I had just one piece that I'll bring up when we bring the policy back up, and that was under asset protection, and it's 2.6.10, but the header on it is shall not close any buildings as public schools. And to be brought up in this framework of closing for a time, not closing permanently, kind of got me thinking, what are we really talking about in this policy? Is it closing because of a snowstorm, which I think is one of the exceptions to the caveat? Or is it closing the building? So we'll get to those as we get to these policies, but that's one thing that came up for me.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I learned something. The difference between dismissal and closure are actually defined at the federal level.
Wow.
So this term dismissal never gets used in Vermont. And so all of a sudden there was guidance about dismissal, and it caused a lot of confusion in the field because it's never been used before. So the idea that you can not have students coming into the school, but it's still open for staff to do work is just a new concept, but it's federally defined.
Interesting. All right. Anything else on this end that anybody has any questions, comments, concerns? All right. So again, Sean, we thank you for the leadership and the rest of the team for all the hard work. Next item on the agenda here is, find the agenda. I've got it as the lease agreement. So this is the lease agreement with regards to the, what do we call it, the Winooski Family Center. Sean, you want to run through?
Sure. So I've been reporting out monthly on progress in this area. And we do, that lease agreement is ready to go upon approval. And we would have a preschool, and we may transition that to an early Head Start, which would be younger children at some point. But having another space for that early learning in the city is really, really important. We did not have it open this year because the Howard Center was unable to continue to run their program there. So while it has been used for some other things, we had a loss of pre-K spots for Winooski children this year, and we want to improve that. It also helps us with the construction project. So when they start moving on the back of the building, they have to demolish a corner so that where one of our preschools currently exists. So it fills a lot of needs. The one challenge that came up in the legal review is that Deke and I had been talking about proposing a 5-year lease agreement, and the Housing Authority really wanted that longevity. And the lawyer said if we wanted to go to a 5-year, we would need to bring it to the voters. So we put language in there that our lawyer has approved that says we would bring it to the voters by town meeting day of 21 so that we could have the full 5-year. If for some reason it did not pass, then we would have a 3-year agreement, which is allowable, and then we would probably renew that agreement when that was up, or talk about putting it out to the voters again for 5 years at some point.
So we will be staffing, as a district, we will be staffing the space to run it?
So we will just be bringing one of our preschool classrooms, fully staffed, down to the family center starting this summer, getting it ready and then opening it up. And then we'll determine, based on the new phasing schedule for the capital project, at what point will we have those 4 preschool classrooms available on site, and we'll bring them back and most likely transition the family center to an early Head Start site.
An early Head Start site for the balance of the lease?
Yeah.
Can you describe a little bit of the early Ed site?
So early Head Start. So it is a federal program. It's basically ages 0 to 3. And you have to meet the same low income guidelines for Head Start.
And again, we staff that, or is that staffed by others? That
would be staffed by Head Start, which is run by Champlain Valley Opportunity Economic Group in Chittenden County.
Okay, so after we're ready to bring the classroom back, after the construction opens up a space, we put it in for the Head Start, and Head Start runs it. Do they pay the rent at that point? We pay the rent and let them use the space? How does that?
That would be part of the agreement that we make with them at that point. Okay. They do have money to do that, so I think we would try to negotiate that they would be picking up those costs.
But I think based on the agreement here, the rent is not at all prohibitive. It's a good piece for that. All right. And so any other comments on that piece? Let's see, I did have one. So with regards to insurance and whatnot, that'll all be taken care of with the additional space through our current, I'm assuming, Visbit.
Yeah, so we had a Visbit review and a legal review of the contract, and we carry all of the liabilities that the housing authority needed us to carry, and up to the maximum amounts to meet the needs of the lease agreement.
Okay. All right. Other thoughts, comments? No? All right. So to enter into this, we need to vote it in. So I would accept a motion to accept the lease agreement as written for 3 years and 5 if approved.
So moved.
Tori? Okay, so we'll go clockwise again. Matt?
Aye.
Margaret? That button is so small, isn't it?
Aye.
Tori?
Aye.
Aye for Mike. Well, all right.
Thank you.
All right, next item is an item on minivan purchase for 2. Sean, you want to give us a preface on this one?
Yeah, I mean, it was I think the cover letter, the memo, had quite a bit of information in it. So, this has been a growing need over time that we've heard about that we haven't been able to fulfill. And we think we have a pretty good opportunity here to do it, given the Bar Foundation and the way that we're able to offset some of those costs in the administrative time in the operating budget. And then the IDAB money, which has already been confirmed as an allowable expense. And then with limited operating expenses moving forward. The real tricky part of this is the laws around being a school bus and transporting students, and it puts you into a real box of what you can actually purchase before it becoming a bus. And then there's a whole bunch of other restrictions that come into play at that point. So particularly at the high school level, they have been asking for this for 3 or 4 years. And I think it will really help our community-based learning opportunities. It'll support also the therapeutic classrooms with the changing needs that they have on a moment-to-moment basis. So yeah, I think it's a good thing for us to do.
Comments? Thoughts?
I like that the color matches the Winooski Spartan colors.
That is the most important part of this whole thing. I think it's absolutely necessary to be able to have flexible pathways. Kids have got to get out into the community for so many valid, relevant, meaningful purposes.
A lot of heads nodding, but not a lot of lips moving. Any other thoughts?
We have also updated, just this year, we updated our procedures for staff drivers using Visbit's guidance on that. So it's even a little more detailed than it had been in the past in terms of, nobody has to drive. Nobody is being forced to drive these vehicles or students. But when they agree to, they've not only got to give it a license and registration and insurance, but now there's they have to tick off the the status of their own vehicle, you know, that it's safe, that it's had an inspection and all those kinds of things. We won't have to do that anymore with these vehicles, and we'll be maintaining them and making sure that they're safe along.
And so just a couple of thoughts. When I got onto the board, we had already had the minibus that's out there was bought with special education funds and couldn't be used for any other purpose. Based on the way I read this, one of those vans will be utilizing IDAB money. And will that come with that same set of restrictions that one will only be able to use for that purpose?
Yes.
Okay, and the other one will be by definition here, free reign for others.
Yes.
Do we still have that mini school bus?
Oh yeah. It is our meal delivery vehicle right now. It's coming in real handy. We're using that, and we're using the Spartan pickup truck to get out to those other sites each day. So,
Okay.
yeah, the bus is older. It's, you know, at some point, I don't think it's going to be in the next year or two, but at some point it's going to require some replacement, or we'll have to contract out for that service because we do need that, particularly with some students who require lifts getting back and forth to school.
Which won't be available on this van. This will be a regular minivan without the lift feature or anything on it, right?
Right.
Okay. The vision I have in my head, and you tell me that, I think you told me that the mini bus there is now utilized quite well. My vision was from when I first started on the board, it was buried up to its axles because it was just sitting. So I'm glad to see it's been used. The other question I had here was and maybe this is just it's in the state, I'm assuming the requirements here. Down in section 4, it says, however, if used to transport students, these shall be considered a type 2 school bus for purposes of licensure, and shall display identification sign as prescribed by whatever of this title. Does that mean they'll need special licenses to drive and only certain people will be able to?
So if you go all the way up to, let's see. No, sorry. I think you're right. I think we'll have to outfit them with those, just with the lights.
But it says for purposes of licensure, is that a driver's license that people need a special license if they're, I think it's used to.
No, I don't want to say, I want to research that and get back to you if we can do a contingency, because I know that we did all this work, and that was one of the things that was addressed. And my understanding was that we did not need, nobody needed a special license to drive these vans.
All right, I guess that was my only statement, was the fact that if you need special licensure, now you've got only, I don't know, 2 people that can do it.
Okay, so I think I may have found it. So down at the very bottom, it says in C, type 2 is seating capacity of more than 10 and fewer than 16.
Okay, perfect.
So
All
we're
right.
less than 10, so it's not considered a type 2 and doesn't require the license.
Okay, good. All right. Anything else? Any other comments? Sean, any other? Nothing. Okay. Any other comments? Need for clarification? Nothing. Okay. I would accept a motion to approve the purchase of the 2 minivans based on the documentation here.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Tori. Any other discussion? Okay, backwards this time again. Alex, Tori,
Aye.
Margaret,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
And myself, aye. Okay. All right. Let's see. I think that leads us down to the student report. Sorry, I'm wrestling with my agenda here. Yeah, down to the student report. I've been patiently awaiting. I don't know if you guys actually got anything ready to talk to us about this evening, but boy, I certainly would love to hear how you're working through everything here.
Yeah, we're gonna explain that to you. Pipa's gonna go first, though.
Okay. So, she and I just connected before the meeting, and we just wanted to share to the board how hardworking our teachers have been to provide. Can you hear me fine? Yeah.
Yep.
To provide resources at home, and also tech and IT are also working very hard to provide devices to elementary school kids. So they just got out devices to third through fifth grade, and they're working on getting devices to first graders and second graders as well, I heard. Yeah, and also doing regular calls. My siblings and I have been regularly checked up on. The only thing that I wish there was, I'm pretty sure they're gonna get to this. It's because it's been really hectic, but it'd be really good if teachers do called parents, especially for elementary school kids, and let them know about, inform them about their students' work, so that the parents are more familiar with it, because students are really familiar with their work and their routines at school, but elementary school kids might not want to do the work. So as the parent, they might need to know more about that, and especially for parents whose English is not their first language, it could be a little bit more challenging to keep their students on task and making sure that they do all their work. But everything else is really, really good. The teachers deserve a lot of applause. They've been working, and I muted myself back then. Motivation at home can be hard, so teachers are doing well with checking in with their students and keeping them up to work. So yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Okay. So, I've been talking to the people, the seniors in our class, and they've been trying to adjust to online classes, and it seems like they are doing it very well, because none of them seem to be stressed out or worried, because also teachers are helping them out with graduations, making sure that they get the GXs on time, which includes capstones. So Junpo will also be going on. So I've been talking to Heidi about it, and she told us that Mr. McQuinn and some of the teachers are working on it, and they're going to email us soon about it so we can do our presentations online. And I think this is a good idea, because doing a test instead of presentations would not be showing their understanding of the subject. Instead, they would be looking on Google about it, which wouldn't be good. So I think how we do presentations at Winooski is such a great idea, especially for times like this, because it's hard to trust students doing the test. And lastly, I would like to talk about the new student rep, since I'm going to be graduating soon. So since we don't have community meetings anymore, we can't really announce it to everyone. So we're going to send out an email and hope that people check their emails about it. And we're going to tell Heidi about it to make sure that people know about it. And the people that do want to sign up will write their essays. And once they receive the document telling them how to sign up for student rep, we're gonna get emailed essays like we usually do in the previous years. And then after we get the essays, we're gonna review it, and then we're gonna see the best candidates. And then we're gonna do a voting poll on Google Form, and then we're gonna introduce them to you on June.
In relation to picking another student rep, the one comment, Sophia, I think you made that leads me to ask another question would be hoping they check their email. This is not normal by any means.
It isn't.
Might we consider doing this process in the fall when everybody comes back? We're typically picking a junior, so they're going to have 20 meetings anyway. They're going to miss maybe one or maybe. Might it be better to wait until everybody's back in the house to do it in the fall rather than try to force it now? Something to think about.
I think that's a good idea. But also like maybe like introducing it maybe in the like right now so we can make sure like they know and they can be prepared for later.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just hate to box somebody out that wanted to do it but missed the email or that communication.
I guess it's
so. Yeah. Are you guys recruiting?
We're just email about it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we're gonna. Well, Heba's gonna take control and figure out the next student rep.
Okay. Good. Good.
John also wanted us to touch base on tech and early college. I think tech. The only problem with tech is it's usually hands-on, but our teachers have been really creative with how they're teaching us there. They are planning to send us all material so that we can do the hands-on work at home. So with all the labs and experiments, they're sending us everything home so we can do that. And they have regular Zoom meetings, and our teacher records lecture and sends it to us to keep us posted. The only
Have we all lost? No, I can't hear. Have we all lost Heba?
Yeah, we lost you, Heba. Sorry. Maybe if you turn your video off, your bandwidth will allow your voice to come through.
Yeah. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Much.
Okay. Sean said yes, it's better. I said that our teachers are sending us stuff home that we can do work, like hands-on work, because that's all what tech is about. And they're doing project-based tests instead of paper tests like we would regularly in class. And the teacher is recording lecture and sending them to us as if we're in class. So learning, like, tech has been pretty much the same. The only difference is we're not there.
I think in general, all of our teachers are really prepared with this, and they've assigned us the right materials and prepared us beforehand because we're doing a lot of online work in class anyways.
And you're able to get the clarification if you have any questions. They're responsive.
Yes.
Yeah. Math Lab sent us like a sign-up sheet. So if students are stuck with anything in math, they can sign up for a place so they can get extra help online. The teacher can call them. I think the teachers have been really prepared for this.
Yeah, it's amazing when you can't have there's no way to fathom being able to be prepared for something like this. And you start pulling it off to get there. So hats off again. Good. Anything else, Sophia? Eba?
If you have any questions, we can answer them.
Yeah.
How are you all holding up in general in terms of like just the whole situation about it? I mean, it seems like y'all doing well with the schoolwork and all that, but it's kind of a scary time. And how can like, are there ways that as a school, as a community, that we can better like tell you that we care about you all and like we understand that this is the norm? General questions like that. I mean, one of the things that I'm saddest about too is a lot of our seniors are losing a lot of like some of those rites of passages. And so I want to acknowledge that I feel bad about it, but are there things that we can help soften the blow?
I think it was cool that you guys, teachers went around our neighborhood. It was interesting because I wasn't aware of it before. I think maybe Zoom meetings would be cool with our classes, but that will take a lot of work with talking to Heidi and everyone in our class. I don't know any other ideas.
Yeah, I think the teachers seem to care a lot because everybody is like we're all
We lost you again.
Oh,
Always at the worst of times. Sorry, Eba, we lost you. All right. Sophia, anything else?
Maybe I can call her through my phone. Does that work?
I'm not sure if she really has anything else, or Sean, can you just you want to try to just see if she's got anything else, or?
Yeah, I just sent her a chat and said, type your message to me if you want me to read it out.
Oh, that's
Okay.
a good idea.
You know, and I think this is the part where like I'll just offer to the seniors and whatever advantage. We have a lot of talent on the school board, and if there's any like chats that we can do with the seniors or juniors about colleges or life, about how we're handling like half hour, hour of those type of group meetings, I'm willing to volunteer my time, anything that kind of helps ease the concerns, just so that I mean, I am amazed that y'all have not figured out that your teachers are just as scared as you are about the unknown, that they're like, that your perception of them is that they're really outstanding and prepared. Please know that I don't think that was the case, but I'm really happy that they've been able to like show that strength in that. But I think as a board, I think we can do that too for the students to know that like we care. So if there's any like small kind of group meetings that you can do, please sign me up for that.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, a great life lesson. Never let them see you sweat.
Yeah. I think what Alex was talking about was a very good idea because I know you guys wanted to be more connected to the students at our school. So having like a meeting on Zoom and having like people watch you guys talk instead of them, it would just like make them more like involved in school and like maybe learn more and know that you guys are a help to them.
Is that in a regular board meeting or something that we can do, say, on a Friday morning in one of the town meetings or group meeting?
I think that's a good idea. Maybe you guys can do it next year, but Hebo will take care of that because I won't be here.
So is your suggestion a regular board meeting or just a?
No, not a regular board meeting because that would just be too much. I think a community meeting would be very helpful and they'll know more about the board and you guys can share about what you guys do. So, because I think a lot of people don't realize that there's a student board and they don't know who to really go to. And especially since many of the board representatives are usually at tech or at early college, they don't really see us and they don't really know about you guys. So knowing that they can email you guys for anything will be like very helpful for them.
We probably should look to do that in early in the year and Because you have group meetings, right? Town halls.
Mm-hmm. And there's always space for like anyone to present.
Nice. All right. That will certainly be under high consideration, and we'll see if we can get it going.
Yeah. I don't mind helping too, still.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
All right. That brings us to the end of what we had on the agenda. I'm hoping that community items for those on the board is through Zoom only at this point. Everybody's all hunkered down, but we will survive. Matt, I know you had reached out a couple of times to try to get us together as a board off board time. I think when this is all over, I think we're going to have to put a full court press on trying to get that done and get everybody together. So
I'm already planning the drink menu, Mike.
all
I mean,
right.
non-alcoholic drinks, of course, is what I meant, actually. Sorry.
Grapefruit's good. Okay. Anything else before we close up? I just want to leave you guys with please be safe. The hardest part about all of this, after having been cooped up for this long, is the will or the want to get back out too early. So hopefully we can get to the other end of this and safely, everybody intact, and take good care of yourselves.
And before we go, I just want to properly acknowledge, thank you for the board leadership in writing a letter to the teachers and the staff of Winooski and letting them know that we do care.
Yeah.
That was a very thoughtful of you, and I appreciate that you spoke out on our behalf in doing that. And I also want to recognize to the students their recognition of the tech support of our district. This is not the easiest job to do, and oftentimes that is probably where another underfunded area. And what if you've been able to do this for our whole town, please special applaud to the tech staff.
Yep, for sure. All right. I think at this point, without anything left on the agenda, we have to go around the room one more time. I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right. Any other discussion? Clockwise this time. Margaret?
Oh, I'm just so happy to see faces, humans. But okay, we have to adjourn. Aye.
Okay. Walk across the fence. Tori?
Aye.
Hi, nice to see you all.
Nice to see you.
Since like I'm gonna be overall, I'm gonna be the first nay in 5 years because I just miss you all.
Bring it too close to say aye, but duly noted that you didn't want to leave our company. Love it. Oh, keep the faith, folks. Stay safe.
You too. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.